So here are the 10 reasons why most people are broke, don't have money. So I want you to do is keep score, please, if you will. Okay, now 10, if you give yourself a 10, that means that you kind of really have this skill, which is a negative thing, this trait that's negative. And just this, I'm not going to ask to see it. No one's going to, you're going to total it up for your own knowledge, so you know exactly where you are. You know what you need to learn. It's not for anybody but you. But get honest with yourself right now. Let's go through these here, and I'll give you some insight into why these things are so destructive. And if you see that you have any of these things in your own life, you know you have to work on them. Good or good? Yes? Okay, excellent. So here we go. People are unable to manage their state. Now, this is your physiological, emotional state, and what it is how you feel in the moment. You could be the most talented person in the world, the best business person in the world, the best athlete, and I work with lots of athletes, by the way. The best athlete in the world doesn't matter. The best parent in the world. But if you're in a disempowered, emotional state, you can't do shit. You can't do anything. Here are the empowering states for business: certainty, confidence, clarity, courage, conviction, ambition, passion. Disempowering states for business: overwhelm, uncertainty, fear. Those things destroy you. Now, we can't manage our state all the time. You're not a robot. You know, I try this stuff. I'm pretty good at this, but believe me, I fall out of state all the time. But that skill, that in the moment when it matters, when it really comes down to it, can you manage your state? Or do you spend the bulk of your time in disempowered states, feeling overwhelmed, fearful of the future, pissed off, angry? Okay, give yourself a 10 if you feel like that all the time, and a 1 if you never feel like that. And by the way, just so you know, the real problem, as you're writing, the real problem with this is that we live in a world, and excuse my French here, we live in a world where shit happens. We do, right? You're walking along doing everything like, and bam, you get hit with a lump of it between the eyes, right? And at that point in time, you take that punch, okay? That's when state management really matters. Because what most people do is when they take that punch, they try to make sense of it all, so they start telling themselves a story. They'll tell themselves a story of why they can have what they want and so on and so forth, when in truth, what stops people from getting what they want is the bullshit story they tell themselves of why they can't have it. Because that story stops them from getting honest. This is about honesty, to see things as they are right now in your life, but not worse than they are, which is what a lot of people do. Then to see things better than they are and develop a plan to get there. And that's exactly what the straight line does. Imagine the straight line for a second. Your life is a map, right? I love this so much. I'm going to leave it there for a while. I love it, okay? Imagine your life is a map, okay? This is where you want to get to, your goal, wealth and success. Who here wants to be wealthy and successful? Raise your hand and say aye. Everyone. Anybody not want to be wealthy and successful? Take a bathroom break. It's a good time. Because by being around me, I used to say, if you want to get rich, just walk behind Jordan. Money falls out of his pocket. I'm not that organized sometimes, okay? So you get wealthy, just be around me. Here we go. This is where you want to go, okay? The straight line is the perfect, just accept it for right now. Put the skepticism down for a second. Imagine the straight line being the perfect way to get to where you want to go. And you know me, let's say you knew me for 3 or 4 years, and you'd seen all the people I've turned into millionaires, all the money I've made for people. You really knew the kind of guy I was, my altruistic sensibilities, despite the fact that I made huge mistakes in the past. I'm not a perfect person. But just imagine for right this moment that you knew everything I was saying was true. The straight line was the perfect formula. Let me tell you something. If you don't have a starting point, I can't draw a map for you. The straight line goes nowhere without a starting point. What you need to do is get honest with yourself, see things as they are, not worse than they are, then see them better than they are, develop a plan to get there, and this is your goal, your vision for the future. Make sense? Yes or yes? Okay, great. Give yourself a score. Next reason people are broke, they set impotent goals. Here's the deal. And you're going to know this is true when you hear it because it's a basic truth of life. The reason that most people are not successful or not wealthy is not because they set their goals too high and miss them. It's because they set them too low and hit them. Get that? It's not because you set your goals too high and miss. You set your goals too low and you hit them. And you get caught up in the average daily struggle of averagism and mediocrity. That's what kills people. Everybody raise your hand for a second, please. Raise your hand. Now raise it as high as you can. I'm going to crouch so I can see. Okay? Now just raise it a bit higher, everyone. Higher. Why the hell did that happen? I say raise it as high as you can. And everyone says, okay, then a little bit higher. Okay, well, if you really mean it, right? You get it? It's that extra inch. That's where you want to set your goal. Not pie in the sky and out of control like it's never going to happen. Because that's a load of crap, too. People that set those sort of goals, they abandon those goals. And I'll get to that later. But the idea here is you want to set the goals just above your comfort zone. So now think about it for a second. Think about your goals right now. How do you set them? Are you setting them very low and hitting them? If that's the case, then give yourself a 10. Are you setting goals that don't inspire you? Some people set goals that might be high, but they're crappy goals. They're not the sort of goals that make you jump out of bed in the morning, make you want to go to work for yourself, to secure the future, not just for you, but for your family. So you don't have to compromise or acquiesce to anybody unless you love them, unless you want to. That's freedom. You know, money is just a mechanism to get there. I look at myself as a guy who helps people solve the money problem. Get it? So give yourself a score. I love this one. They subscribe to The Secret. What a load of crap this is. Hello? I read this book because I was in disbelief because people will tell, here's the strategy for success of The Secret, right? Go into your house and into a quiet room and you close the lights, draw the shades, and sit on a couch and visualize a big fat check. 25 G's, $1,000 US, okay, with your name on it. And I want you to imagine that check and just make that check go bigger in your mind and make it real, more real, and just put it out into the ether of the universe and the law of attraction will take hold. Just think about it. Bullshit, right? Hello? If that's your strategy for success, the only thing that will show up in your mailbox is not the check, it's a freaking eviction notice from your landlord. They'll be towing away your car. Your wife or your husband will be over the next door neighbor, and you'll be still saying, where's the check? Where's the check? Where's... Okay? The Secret is a load of crap. Okay? Do I believe in manifestation? Yeah! Damn straight I do. But you got to take action. I'm one of those unfortunate people. I tried it. I really did. I swear I tried it. Because I read the book, so well, let me try, you know? So I sat there and I prayed for the check. Never came. But I went out and started taking action. Guess what? The check came with an extra couple of zeros attached to it. So if you're the sort of person, no judgment being passed here, just a little judgment being passed, that subscribes to The Secret, give yourself a big fat 10. And if you subscribe to the world of action, give yourself a 1. Limiting beliefs. These are killers. There are 2 I want to focus on right now. There's lots of them, but the point is this. There are 2 types of beliefs I want to describe right now. One has to do with life. One has to do with money. Let's go to the life belief first. Will it work? Poor people believe they are creatures of circumstance. That means that the life happens to them. You get that? While rich people are creators of circumstance. I will tell you this, there is no more destructive belief in the world than to think that life happens to you. Because there's 3 things that you do when you don't think that you can create your own destiny. I'll tell you exactly what they are, right? Number 1, the first thing you do is you play what I call the blame game. You start blaming everybody for why you don't have what you want. You'll blame the government, you'll blame your family, you'll blame your spouse, you'll blame your boss, you'll blame the economy, you'll blame the people on Wall Street, which probably deserve some blame, but you'll blame anybody and everybody when you think the world happens to you. You're powerless. The second thing you do is you justify. It is because the economy stinks. It's because people are unfair to me. It's because money doesn't really matter anyway. Bullshit. You all know that. I live on love alone. Really? Go bring that to the bank and pay the rent. Hello, okay? I love love. I'm in love. I'm the greatest woman in the world. I'm going to get married next year. for the third time, unfortunately, but I'm getting married next year. Great woman. So I know that, but money's money, right? They justify. Third, and this is the worst one of all, so write it down in big letters. They complain. I hate these people. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because I do believe in some laws of the universe. I do. And one of them is that what you focus on expands, gets bigger, and what you focus on, you attract because you move towards it. If you're focusing on something, you attract. So here's what happens. When you're complaining, what are you focusing on? All the shit in your life. So guess what happens to you? You become a giant shit magnet. Get the picture? I don't want to be around because they attracted to you. You got to get away from them because when you hear someone complaining, it might hit you too. And it's the worst of all. That's what complaining does. So if you're a person that believes that, you're a creature of circumstance, life happens to you, good luck. I don't think any of you are like that. You know why? You wouldn't be in this room. How about that? People that believe they're creatures of circumstance, they don't show up to rooms like this. They just don't. They'll kick and scream at the door. Like the exorcist, if you bring in like the devil into church or something, right? They'll just leave it, forget about it, it's done. They won't come into rooms like this. So you're probably pretty safe on that one. Let's go to the next belief. Poor people think money doesn't matter. Rich people value money. They know it does matter. Okay, again, I said it before. We live in a world where money matters. Now, is it the be-all, end-all? No. But money is a beautiful, wonderful thing. When you have money, you can do great things. You can help other people. You can retire your parents, take care of your children, travel, have freedom to do the things you want to do. Money won't make you happy, but a lack of it, and I've been there, by the way. I've been broke and bankrupt in my life. Not that long ago, about 10 years ago. A lack of money could be a passport to misery. So I say solve the money problem and then look for the higher things afterwards. So real quick, give yourself a score for that one. So here's one of the things that's ironic. I don't come from the seminar world. I come from the real world. I come from Wall Street. I come from the world of business. And I never met so many people who claim to be life coaches in my life. Everyone's a life coach or a business coach or a success coach, and most of them have never done anything. Okay, so you got to be careful. Who do you choose as your mentor? Typically, the people with no money are very quick to offer their advice. True or true? Say it louder. True or true? Damn straight it's true, okay? So be careful who you choose. Now, also, I've chosen some really crappy mentors too, but they were rich. Here's one. Remember I said greed is good in my opening reel? The movie studio loved that. What Gordon Gekko is saying there, he's saying greed is good. Greed cuts through. Greed clarifies. And I was 24 years old when I heard him say that. I heard him say, rip their skulls out and stuff it in a garbage compactor, right? I don't remember some of the lines. They were great lines, right? The problem is I took some of this stuff to heart. And I thought greed was good. And the truth is this. Greed is not good. Ambition is good. I got to crouch so I can see you. The lights are so bright. Ambition is good. Passion is good. Greed is destructive. The first thing that happens when you get greedy, and I know firsthand, is ethics go flying out the window. It becomes about making as much as you can, as fast as you can, and you do not care who gets hurt along the way. So be careful the mentors that you choose. Don't choose the slubby fat guy in his undershirt with the whiskers on his chin who's never done anything but been a bum. A lot of those people on the phone, they're life coaches. You don't know who's on the other end of the phone on the internet, right? It's true, which can work to your favor. I'll get to that later. For those of you who want to make money really fast, I have some amazing stuff. You're going to make a lot of money just being around me. I got some great ideas. Anyway, and conversely, you don't want to choose that sort of mentor. And when you model someone, when someone becomes your mentor, remember this. You don't have to model the entire organism, right? You can take a piece of them. Take the ambition, but not the greed. Take the strategy, but not some of the other stuff that comes along. So write down your score. If you got good mentors in your life, give yourself a 10. If you got lousy mentors, give yourself a 1. No, you got good mentors, give yourself a 1. Lousy mentors, give yourself a 10. I'm sorry. They're controlled by fear. This is a killer. We all know this. And there are basically 3 ways to process fear, to manage fear. Let me tell you what they are. Number 1 is to pretend that fear does not exist. This leads to a place I call, I'm going to write it right here. Flip the chart. Wish I was taller. Okay, the biggest, baddest, I'm 5'7", 148 on a good day, okay? So here we go, ready? First way, okay, when you manage fear, right, is you ignore it. You pretend it doesn't exist. And here's where you end up. In a place called poverty and misery. If you try to convince, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not taking action. I'm not starting my own company. I'm not going out there and trying to strike it rich. It's not because of fear. And then what do? So you tell the story. You get it? That's not what you'd say to anybody. What you would say is, money doesn't matter. It's too difficult. I don't come from a rich family. A guy like me is not cut out for that sort of stuff. Oh, it's not important anyway. Those people, rich people, are all idiots. All the stuff that we hear. That's a result of not admitting to yourself that you have a bit of fear. You ignore it and you let it control you. That is the most disempowering state for wealth and success. The most. Second is overwhelm. Third is uncertainty. And along with that, confidence. Second way, I'm going to leave the third one for last. The second way, which is, let me click here. You act in spite of fear. That's what I'm a master of doing, by the way. I was always scared. Scared to fail. Scared what people would think if they knew how I didn't know all the answers back when I was younger. I was scared, but I acted anyway. I never let fear stop me. How many people act that way in their lives? Raise your hand and say, if you do. Anybody have that strategy? It's the achiever's special, I call it. That's what achievers do. They're scared, but they act anyway. Okay? Here's what happens when you have that strategy. You end up in a place called wealthy misery or wealthy anxiety. Anyone here know what I'm talking about? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Anybody? Come on, come clean. Anybody? I got a couple of hands. A lot more. Okay, come on. That's the truth. If you're sitting there acting in spite of fear, okay, and not processing it correctly, you're going to be nervous a lot of the time. Always concerned, what happens if I fail? What happens if I don't hit my goal? The whole 9 yards. It's better than the first, but it's not the best way. The third way is embracing it and letting it motivate you. And I'll get to that later. But for right now, give yourself a score about how you manage fear. Do you have the achiever's mentality, where you process fear, but you act, but you're scared all the time or nervous? A lot of people like that. Give yourself a score. This is what poor people always do. They try to come up with something spectacular, something new and novel. Okay, that's the biggest trap ever. The opposite is true. You need a proven system. That's why I developed the straight line system out of desperation, because I had 100 companies that were suffering. I needed a way that was basically really, really simple for anybody to run a company, anyone to get wealthy personally. Great quote, Warren Buffett, one of my mentors. Seen him 3 times, and I read all his books. Brilliant. Ever know Warren Buffett? Yes or yes? Yes? Okay. He said, when I buy a business, I want to make sure the systems are so good that even an idiot can run it. Because sooner or later, one will. Okay? So, when you go out there and try to earn money in the past or right now, are you using a proven system, or are you trying to reinvent the wheel? If you're trying to reinvent the wheel, give yourself a big fat 10. If you're using a system, simple, proven, effective, give yourself a 1. This is going to be like golf. The lower, the better. It's a golf score. They're lousy at business. Manchester Farms Meat and Seafood. That was my first business. I started when I was 21 years old. In fact, I started my first business really when I was 9 in a paper route, knocking on doors, expanding my paper route. I made good money when I was 9. When I was 12, I started shoveling driveways after snowstorms, making $20 a pop. Doing pretty good after snowstorms. In Kuala Lumpur, you'd go out of business real quick. Not a lot of snow around here. When I was 16 and a half, I hit it big for the first time. And I was going down to, this would do really well in Kuala Lumpur. I would go to the local beach when it was hot during the summer, and there was a long walk to the concession stand, and I'd go with an Italian, a cooler with Italian ices, chipwiches, and fudgicles. And I started making big money, $600 per day, when I was 16 years old. I was making $20,000 to $30,000 every summer in 2.5 months, and I used that money to put myself through college. My parents didn't have money. I put myself through school working on the beach. My friends were making $1.50 an hour. I was making $600 per day. Best business in the world. Ice cost me 7 cents, sold it for $1. At the end of the day, whatever they didn't sell, it would melt. I didn't care. No cost of goods sold. Who's in business, by the way? You know that's a great thing, right? Great thing, okay? The problem happened with that Manchester Farms Meat and Seafood, which was my first real business in the real world. Can we flip that slide up, please, of the seafood? I started that company, I started that company from scratch with 1 truck. I answered a blind ad in the paper, and I worked for someone else's company for about 2 weeks, figured it out on my own, bought my first truck, and started going door to door selling meat and seafood. Within 7 months, I had 26 trucks on the road and was a millionaire, 21 years old. And I was making money. I bought a beautiful red Porsche, met my first wife, we got married, everything was got a pocket full of money, it was great. Problem? I was making every mistake in the world about business. I had no experience. Business is not a skill that you're born with. You're just not. It's something that you learn. The problem with most people, they just don't know how to do business. No one ever taught them. They don't teach it to you in school. Business 101, bullshit. That's not real world business. That's theoretical. You might get this. I'm not a theoretical sort of guy. Just not. I'm a guy that lives in the real world. Everything I do is real world, works, been proven. So business 101 in college, it's great for some, basic stuff. It doesn't translate. I took business courses in college. I went into that business and I got buried. I thought I was a millionaire. I was actually growing on credit. I overexpanded. I was undercapitalized. And bam, just like that, I was out of business and bankrupt at 23. Lost everything. Even my red Porsche. I had a tear trickled down my arm, and they took my Porsche away with a hook on a tow truck. Worst day of my life up to that point. And that's why I went down to Wall Street. Because in my town in New York, when you want to make a lot of money, and you're young, and you're ambitious, and you can sell, you go to Wall Street. I knew some people making a lot of money there. I said, if they can make $1 million a year, I can make $50 million a year. And I was right. That was my path to Wall Street, through the meat business. So give yourself a score. And by the way, if you don't have business experience, guess what? There's nothing to be ashamed of at all. You're not born with this stuff. Someone's got to teach you. Someone's got to show you the ropes. That's it. No big deal. This is the easiest one to master. Because business is very, very easy once you know how. And so is making money. So give yourself a score. 10 if you don't really have any business skills. Or give yourself a 1 if you're really sharp. You know all the stuff. You know about marketing, sales. You know about operations, how to negotiate. You know how to position yourself in a certain way there's a brand. You know how to use OPM. I love this one. OPM. Back to this one. Other people's money. You must master this. It's my specialty. You could be, they say to me, Jordan, this is what they said in the newspaper. You can Google me. You get a good laugh. I got a lot of Google stuff, okay? Thousands and thousands of entries. They said if you flush Jordan down the toilet bowl, he'd come up with a plumber's license. You get that? Good or good? You want to know why? OPM. You could drop me anywhere. I will persuade someone to invest in me. And I'll show you how to do it. It's really easy once you know how. And they make money with me because I have the business skills and I have the straight line system. I can always make money in business. Do I fail once in a while? Yeah, of course I do. Failure is part of the game. But with the straight line, you pick yourself back up. You know where you are. You have an outcome, and you keep going towards it. So give yourself a score on the business front. They're uncomfortable with words like sales and persuasion. This is a big one. There's no way around it, everybody. Who here is a salesperson? Raise your hand. Bunch of people. Great. Guess what? You're all salespeople. Either you're selling and persuading or you're failing in life. Not products, the intangible, yourself, your ideas, your concepts. Selling your kid to make his bed. I'm failing miserably, and I can't get my kid to make his bed. I'm a pretty good salesperson, right? Either you're selling and persuading or you're failing. This is a skill you cannot get around. Everything I'm going to show you today, and there's some great speakers here. I looked at the list. It's amazing. Great speakers. But this is an art. This mastery, or at least effectiveness, getting to be an effective persuader, is the most crucial skill that any human being can have. And here's my man, my mentor, Warren Buffett, right? Not the sort of guy that you would think is a master salesman. That's not what his life is about. Guess what? It's the single most important skill Warren Buffett has. And he said it publicly on numerous occasions. But the point is still the same. You have to learn not to be a master salesperson. That's not what it's about, or a hardcore salesperson. You have to become an effective persuader so you can share your ideas, your concepts, your visions with other people. And they'll follow you because you can show the value that you have as a human being. You could have all the value in the world as a person. You could be the smartest person. You could have the cure for cancer. You could have the next great computer chip, anything in the world. If you don't have the power to persuade, to make your thoughts known, to influence others, you can't do anything about it. You're failing in life. Originally, the first thing I came up with was a straight line. It was persuasion, straight line sales system. And it revolutionized Wall Street. To this day, by the way, every major brokerage firm uses my system. Everyone. It's the most effective way to close any human being who is closable. And I'll show it to you very, very briefly. It takes a little bit longer than 10 minutes. But when I come back here for a few days, you will learn it. It's the simplest thing. If you're scared of selling, or this is not even like selling. It's just simply going through emotions and taking someone from this point to that point in a very logical way. No pressure at all. It's the most effective way to sell. So give yourself a score. And be honest with this one, because this is the killer of a lot of people when they say, oh, I don't like sales or persuasion. Just be honest with yourself here. Give yourself a score. 10 if you hate persuasion, think it's evil. And give yourself a 1 if you're really, really good at it and you thrive with it. The biggest one of all, they slave their lives away for a paycheck. This is why most people are broke. They work for somebody else. There's no way around this. It's very simple. There's just no way around it. If you work for somebody else, there are a couple of exceptions. I'll tell you what they are. Number 1 is if you're a commission salesperson working on heavy commission. That's one way around it. Second way is if you work in a certain industry like banking, investment banking, where you can leverage off of a huge company's assets, like a Goldman Sachs or a Citibank or one of the Kuala Lumpur Bank, whatever it might be locally here. There's very few exceptions. Other than that, if you really want to get ahead in life, you have to own your own business. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out and quit your job right now. Absolutely not. I would never tell a human being to do that. When I mentor people, that's not what the straight line's not about that. What it's about is showing you how to start a business that allows you to do it without quitting your current job. That's what it's about. Without having to put up a lot of money. And if you need any money, you learn how to raise it like that. Not borrow it, raise it. Real cheaply. But at some point in time, if you want to get wealthy, and just please, again, if there's probably one other thing besides that formula that you take away from this today, you have to get into your own business. I sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart. You have to do it at some point in time if you want to get wealthy, or else you're a pawn in someone else's game of chess.